Good morning, Clearbranch kids. I hope you guys are having a wonderful summer. I know that I am. And a big part of what I'm loving this summer is learning how to make waves. And I don't mean waves like we have in the lake or even in the ocean, although those kind of waves are really awesome. What I'm talking about is learning how the things that we do today can make a difference in the world around us. See, when we put our faith in Jesus, we have God's Holy Spirit in our hearts and in our lives. And God's Spirit helps us to speak, think, and act in a way that will make a difference for other people. So today we're going to hear a story from the Old Testament that's going to show us how we can make a huge difference by helping others to make peace. So in 1 Samuel, we meet a man named Nabal who was very, very wealthy, but he was also really mean and super rude. But his wife wasn't like that at all. Her name was Abigail, and the Bible tells us that she had a clear mind and a wise heart, and she did her very best to keep Nabal in line and to keep him from destroying everything with his temper and his mean spirit. Meanwhile, David was staying nearby in the desert of Paran. Now, David would eventually be the king of Israel, but he wasn't the king quite yet. And he and his men had been camping out near Nabal's shepherds and flocks, and they had been kind to the shepherds and helped look out for them and to help look out for the sheep. So soon the time came when the sheep would need to be shorn and all of the wool collected. Once this job was finished, Nabal had a huge party to celebrate that this huge job was done. Now, David and his men didn't have much. They were kind of hiding out during this time. And so, since they had been helping to look out for the shepherds and the sheep, David sent a letter and asked Nabal if they could be included in this big celebration. It would be awesome for them to get to come inside for a little while and not be outdoors and have some really good food to eat and just rest for a little bit. However, remember, Nabal was not a nice guy. He sure didn't mind David and his men helping him out, but when it came time to return the favor, Nabal was not interested. So he sent a pretty rudely worded letter in reply telling David that he and his men were not welcome at the party. Well, that made David furious. So he gathered up some weapons and 400 of his men, and they started heading up the mountain to confront Nabal. Word spread quickly that David and his men were on the way and that David was mad. So as soon as one of the servants let Abigail know what was going on, she knew that she would need to get involved and to help out. But she didn't panic. She came up with a plan. So Abigail got right to work gathering up all sorts of gifts to take to David. She got bread, wine, sheep, grain, pressed figs, and even raisin cakes, all gathered up and collected, and then packed them up for David and his men. So Abigail sent a servant ahead with all of the gifts, and then she followed behind on her donkey. As Abigail got closer, it was obvious, even from a distance, that David was still furious. So as soon as she could, Abigail got down from the donkey and hurried over to David, and when she got to him, threw herself at his feet. So she asked first to be able to speak to him and then told him that her husband was very foolish and just not to listen to him. She begged him to place the blame on her and to accept all of these gifts as an apology. Then she begged him to stop and think. Killing Nabal would only put blood on the future king's hands. David helped Abigail up, and he recognized that God had sent her that day to show good sense and to keep him from doing something that he would later regret. David accepted the gifts, and then he sent Abigail home in peace. Then he and his men turned back instead of going after Nabal. Now, soon enough, Nabal would meet a terrible end because of this type of behavior, but Abigail and her household were saved because she had chosen to be creative and to make peace. Guys, this is a pretty crazy story. Abigail took a huge risk to make peace, but it worked. She helped David to make a better decision, and her actions saved her later on. Now, we may never have to stop a future king from killing someone, but we can help make peace too. Maybe it's by choosing not to argue with a brother or a sister or a friend, or maybe it's by helping two friends make up when they've been fighting. or maybe it's simply by choosing to let someone else have their way in order to keep from fighting ourselves. But the bottom line, guys, is that just like Abigail, we can help others make peace.